Hello everybody and welcome back to another episode of Microsoft Flight Simulator, and in today's episode we are checking out the latest update from FlyingIron's P-38 Lightning. This update was massive and brings a ton of very welcome changes to the aircraft, and today we're going to fly it and check it out now. If you are interested in acquiring any of my Overkills tutorial guides for Microsoft Flight Simulator, please consider joining me on Patreon. Patreon subscribers level tier 2 and above have access to all of my guides, as well as any future updates and future guides that will be coming down the road. Link to Patreon can be found in the description below. Okay, so real quick, let's talk about a few of the changes that have been made. Now, there has been a ton, guys, an absolute ton. I'm just going to try to throw out the ones that really caught my attention. As far as artwork goes, a new propeller discs and startup animation, oxygen gauges, reflections fixed, icing added to the exterior model, intercooler flaps added, fixed several multiplayer artifacts, gear animation, canopy open and closing animations. These are things that I have noticed on a live stream a while back. New canopy rip-off animation sequence with also a rattling to warn you that the canopy isn't locked. We'll be checking that out today just to see what it's like. Let's see here. Elevator trim, disconnect improved. Excuse me. And nearly all the gauges have been redesigned to match very closely with the original gauges. Also, they have improved the legibility of said gauges, and the yoke will also now show always in external view. Let's see here. The checklist, both the MSF toolbar and on the tablet, have been almost completely rehauled, or overhauled, excuse me, and much more thorough and informative now. That's always a nice thing to see. Some of the other ones that really catch, there's so much to go through here, guys. There's so much that was changed. Many of the flight model performance changes have changes. Retuned takeoff, climb, and cruise performances. The startup process is now authentic, meaning that you must hold the start switch first and listen for the flywheel to spool up. It takes approximately 5 seconds, after which you will hold the engage switch to couple the propeller. You can also stall the engine out, or I should say flood the engine, and if you do flood the engine, you will have to open the throttle up to bleed off the fumes, as well as waiting a few minutes before attempting to start the engine again. So we really have to pay attention to the startup process, or we could find ourselves just sitting there for a minute. And these are just the primaries, guys, that I'm covering. Sounds, rebalanced a few sounds, engine volume, etc. Canopy sounds have been restored. Gear movement sounds tweaked. Gear bay closed sound added. Switch sound volume increased. Ground roll buildup improved. And right engine stutter delay fixed. The flight model, we have everything from modern propeller physics to open window buffering. We'll check that as well. Basically what that means is that we're going to see a buffer or a shake in the aircraft if the windows are open. That would have been really handy the first time I flew this thing because I didn't shut it. Compressibility stalls are now coded for and a better approximation of the effect. So a compressibility, let's see here, dive flaps, we already talked about that, or we already talked about the compressibility. And then there's a ton of information that's been added to the flypad, and then just a bunch of general rewrites to the aircraft. So again, guys, I have barely scraped the surface of that changelog. I obviously don't want to focus on it for too long, but we have a ton of things to look forward to. So let's get into the aircraft and get her started up. All right, so let's go ahead and take a peek. I mean, as you guys can see, they definitely redid these gauges. Holy mercy, they look fantastic. And I will absolutely agree, they are definitely significantly easier to read. So let's go ahead and get rid of the yoke there, and let's get her started up. So we're going to see if I just remember how to start it up from before. We want to make sure the tanks are set to the reserve tanks. There we go. All right, they are indeed. Good. And let's see here, we're going to step back upstairs, step down to the lower panel here, and we're going to go battery on. And our generators left and right on. The magnetos need to be set to both. There we go. Magneto master switch needs to be turned on as well. Let's see, am I missing anything? I feel like I'm missing something. So, oh, you know what? Let's step all the way back there again. Fuel pumps need to be turned on. Let's make sure that parking brake is set. It is indeed. Good. Flaps are retracted. We can go ahead and close the canopy at least. Could give a click up there. Canopy should come down. And these are the lock handles for it. We're going to hold off on that but we will go ahead and roll. Well, no, let's leave the windows down for the moment. All right, so let's go. Let's see here. Full prop. We're going to need full mixture for engine start. And let's step back down to the electronics here. All right, so we're going to start with the left engine. We're going to prime it. Let me make it a bit brighter. I feel like it might be a little dark to see right now. So let's, there we go. That's a bit better. All right, so we're going to hold this for between 2 and 4 seconds. 1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi, 3. Okay. Then we're going to go to the left starter. So that's going to be an up click here. And there's that flywheel sound they were talking about. Letting go of that. Very nice. Very nice. Cool startup sound. All right, let's rinse and repeat with the right engine. So we're going to hold the primer. Okay. Hold that starter down. About 5 seconds. And hit the... Oh, no, no, no! All right, good engine start on 1 and 2. Awesome. Okay, let's see here. We can turn. Let's turn those wing lights on. Set our compass. Pitot heat. I don't think I'm missing anything. We could check the checklist, but I'm just trying to enjoy the experience here. Hopefully you guys are enjoying it with me. Got our generators on. Looks like everything's good to go. I don't think there's anything that I'm missing here for engine start. And that sounds good. All right, let's roll these windows up. It's probably really loud. Okay. All right, let's set our altitude, barometric pressure set. All right. Or altimeter, not altitude. Okay. Flaps 1 for takeoff. Let me get myself situated here on the old controls. Looking good. Let's release that parking brake. There's also been a run-up checklist added. And there's the canopy rattle. You can hear it. Locking the canopy. That little rattling went away. All right, and we are out on the near Manila, the Philippines. Let's see here. We can toggle the gun sight on and off if we choose. Oh, I am low, aren't I? That's better. All right, let's rock and roll. I'm going to clear that gun sight. All right, manifold pressure. Let's go to 60 inches here. Airspeed down in the bottom left next to the slip indicator. Looking for 80 knots, or 80 miles per hour, excuse me. There's 80, rotating. Obviously a little on the heavy side. Positive rate, gear up. Manifold pressure down to 40. Props down to 28. And manifold pressure down to 30. Looks absolutely beautiful. Alright. It's going to fly a little goofy. I'm not convinced my trim is working. There it goes. Maybe. No. That's just flight stick. Just back pressure. There she goes. Alright, so the trim is very slow to respond, which I actually don't necessarily mind because I think it makes it easier to fine-tune it. Alright. So now that we have her relatively tuned, let's roll a window down. And if you guys notice, watch the bounce that's happening. Okay, that shaking up and down, up and down, up and down. That is the open window buffet. So if you guys are seeing that and it's driving you crazy, you don't know what's going on, you can't figure out why the aircraft's doing it, your window is down. As soon as you roll the window out, the aircraft smooths right out. This thing looks absolutely beautiful. It's my favorite aircraft growing up. Loved this plane. So beautiful, so unique, so different than any of the other aircraft that we see. And you got to watch everything from your temperatures, engine performance, all of that. Now, engine performance or engine damage, I believe, can be disabled from the tablet. The tablet also does contain a full checklist. Tablet can be found right there, just off our left butt cheek over there. And honestly, we should probably, let's see if I can do this quickly. Guess while we're climbing is as good a time as any. Get off the reserve tanks. She flies gorgeous. Absolutely gorgeous. I love this plane. They've done such amazing work with it. Let's bring that yoke back in. Who would ever thought an aircraft like this would be a fighter? She was fast, fairly maneuverable, had a ton of different uses. Could be used for reconnaissance, air-to-ground attack, air-to-air. This was the plane that shot down Admiral Yamamoto in World War II. They had to stretch it right to her limits in order to get out there to him. Flies like a dream. And the auto feather does work according to the changelog now. You can actually now use the auto feather properly. There is a ton of things that have changed performance-wise with this aircraft. Me personally, I sort of just like flying at the old stick and rudder, but haven't really gotten into using any of the auto feather features or prop feather. Take it down low. Well, I totally crashed that one. I kind of deserved that. I can never fly these aircraft low level from the external view. I do it every time. It's like I lose all sense of a depth perception from those views, which doesn't really make any sense. It's just, I think I get too caught up in the scenery until I realize I'm in a bad spot. But, so we've seen how the aircraft flies. We've seen her in her incredibly gorgeous state now. Here we go again. I'll keep the nose up this time. So now, let's land this beautiful lady call it a day. All right, so there's our airport down right over there. We need to slow this beautiful lady down to about 160 miles an hour. Pull flaps 1 in. I'm gonna get rid of the gun sight again. Remember, she does take a bit to slow down. You really got to pull that prop back. At least that I've found. Flaps 2. And let's go ahead and drop the gear. Oh, mercy. Let's get those landing lights turned on. Where's our airspeed at? Oh, got a little slow now. Looking for 2,600 on the RPMs. Full flaps coming in. Getting slow again. Mixture back to full. It's kind of a scary approach, isn't it? It says approach speed should be 160 miles an hour, but I don't know if I'm buying that one. Either that or I'm coming in way too steep. It's just I'm having to put a lot of power. So 2,600 RPMs, flaps down, gear down. 160 miles an hour, I don't know about that one. So I'm just going to bring that back a bit. Oof. There she goes. A little off center line. Not too bad. Certainly could have been worse. All right, my friends, and that is my first flight back since the latest update for the P-38 Lightning. This thing is absolutely fantastic. One of the most challenging things when I first got the P-38 was, in fact, landing. It was brutal. It was extremely hard to do. This was a much more enjoyable experience. It was still challenging, especially with those buildings behind us on the approach, but I very, very thoroughly enjoyed that. I don't know about the, I was going by the checklist, so if we check the checklist up here for the approach section here, you can see reduced speed 160 miles per hour and propellers at 2,600 RPMs. Now, I could absolutely still be missing a ton of information here. I do feel like my approach was very, very steep. I was very nervous about the buildings, so obviously managing the steep approach made it a little difficult to maintain that speed. I think I would have flown a lot lighter if I had a longer approach, but I knew that I was going to have to go very, very steep down at the end there. So some of that could be pilot error. Actually, I'm willing to bet most of that was pilot error, so don't take too much of that into heart. However, the aircraft as a whole and the performance of this latest edition, or update, I should say, has really taken this aircraft to a whole new level once again. Flying Iron, you guys just continue to amaze the community, at least amaze myself with this aircraft. This is my favorite aircraft, as I said, growing up as a kid. I love the aircraft. I love the sounds. I love the way it looks. It's so unique, stands out from so many other different aircraft. It's really been an enjoy to have as part of the simulations. I think we're going to definitely be rocking this aircraft far more often now that many of these flight model behaviors have been adjusted. Still a few things obviously to work out like we talked about, but I don't think it's necessary to mention those again. I really enjoyed this flight, and I hope you guys are enjoying your P-38s as well. If you're considering purchasing the P-38, Flying Iron Simulations, that's where you want to go. Highly recommend it. Yeah, I just can't stress it enough, guys. This was a very enjoyable experience. So Flying Iron, once again, fantastic job. To the rest of you, stay safe and healthy. Have a wonderful week, and I hope to see you in the next one.